I called my children and said, "I'm struggling. Some unexpected medical bills came up. I need help." The first one answered without hesitation, "I just bought a new car. My money is already tied up." The other one stayed silent for a few seconds, then said quietly, "I don't have much, but I'll bring you everything I have." They had no idea what I was hiding, and I never imagined that one phone call could hurt this much, because the one who said yes was drowning in debt, and the one who said no had everything. Thank you for being here with me. It truly means more than you know. If this moment resonated with you, take a second to comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know you're here. Also, a quick note, this story includes some dramatized elements for storytelling and educational purposes. Any resemblance to real names or situations is purely coincidental, but the message behind it is meant to be meaningful and helpful. They say that life can change in an instant. For me, that instant happened on a Thursday afternoon in April, standing in a convenience store in Tampa. I'm Helen Mitchell, 65 years old, a widow, and until that Thursday, I thought I knew exactly what the rest of my life would look like. Small, quiet, lonely. 6 years ago, I lost my husband, Walter. He was 62, too young, too sudden. Heart attack, no warning, just gone. After he passed, I retired from my administrative assistant job. Our house suddenly felt too big and too empty. I have 2 daughters. Christine is 40, a real estate agent, married to Robert Hastings, who owns a construction company. They have 2 kids, Madison 16 and Ethan 10. Christine lives in one of those beautiful homes with a pool and a 3-car garage. Then there's Anna, 34, my baby girl. She teaches 2nd grade at a public elementary school. Single, lives in a small apartment across town, nothing fancy but content. Here's what nobody tells you about being a widow in your 60s. People forget you exist. At first there are casseroles and phone calls, but eventually life moves on. You're left watching game shows on Saturday nights, wondering if anyone would notice if you disappeared. That Thursday, I stopped for groceries and on impulse bought a Powerball ticket. Walter always said they were a waste of money, but I felt restless. I needed to do something different, even if it was just $2. The woman behind the counter was Gloria, always friendly despite the evening shift. We chatted about the weather, and she handed me the ticket with a wink. "Good luck, honey. Maybe this one's your winner." I tucked it in my wallet and forgot about it. 3 days later, Sunday night, I remembered. Half watching the news, the Powerball numbers scrolled across the screen. Something made me check. I dug out the ticket. First number matched, then the second, the third. By the 6th number, my hands shook so badly I could barely hold the paper. $68 million. I sat in the dark staring at that slip of paper. My heart pounded. 68 million, more money than I'd imagined in 10 lifetimes. My first thought wasn't excitement or relief. It was, who do I call? Christine, Anna. The truth hit me hard. I didn't know if they'd be happy for me or for what I could give them. I didn't sleep that night. Sat on the couch until sunrise thinking about stories I'd heard. Lottery winners who lost everything. Families destroyed by greed. People who took their own lives because money brought only misery. By Monday morning, I decided. I wasn't telling anyone, not yet. I spent the day online researching. Article after article, how to stay anonymous, protect yourself, avoid disaster. The more I read, the more one question burned. Who actually loves me and who would love what I have? I needed to know the truth before telling anyone, before changing my life. I needed to test the people closest to me. See who would show up when I had nothing to offer but myself. A week later, I met with a lawyer named Marcus Fleming. Discreet professional, he helped me set up a trust and claim anonymously. After taxes, I walked away with $41 million. $41 million, and I couldn't tell a soul. For months, I lived 2 lives. Outside, I was still Helen Mitchell, clipping coupons and driving a 15-year-old car. Inside, I had enough money to do anything, go anywhere, be anyone. But loneliness didn't disappear, it intensified. Now I had this enormous secret with no one to share it. Every time Christine called rarely, I wondered if she'd care more if she knew. Every time Anna brought groceries, I wondered if she'd still come if I didn't need her. The questions consumed me. Finally, I decided time to find out. I would test my daughters, and then I'd know once and for all who loved me for me, not for my wallet. 6 months passed. I watched. Christine called 3 times. Brief calls, surface-level conversations. How are you, Mom? I'm fine. How are the kids? They're great. Madison's applying to colleges. Ethan made the baseball team. That's wonderful. We should get together soon. Yes, we should. But we never did. Anna, on the other hand, came to visit every Sunday. She'd drive the 2 hours from her apartment, bring groceries, cook dinner, and sit with me on the porch until the sun went down. She never asked for anything. She just showed up. And that told me everything I needed to know. But I needed to be sure, so I designed the test. In early October, I called Christine first. Hi, sweetheart, I said. How are you? Hey, Mom, I'm good, busy. You know how it is. I do. There was a pause. Then I said, Christine, I need to ask you something. Sure. What's up? I'm in a bit of a bind. I had some unexpected medical bills come up, tests, follow-up appointments, things insurance didn't cover. It's about $4,000. I was wondering if you could help me out. Silence. Then, $4,000. Yes, I know it's a lot, but I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. Another pause. Mom, I wish I could, but we just bought a new SUV for Robert's business, and Madison's college applications are coming up. We're paying for SAT prep application fees, all of that. Our money's already allocated. I understand, I said quietly. Can Anna help? I'll ask her. Okay, I'm sorry, Mom, I really am. It's okay, sweetheart, take care. I hung up, and I sat there for a long time staring at the phone. She'd said no. Not let me see what I can do, not give me a few days, not how urgent is this, just no. What I didn't know then was that Christine never told Robert she'd said no to me. She never told him I'd called asking for help. And she certainly never told him I'd won $68 million. Robert thought I was still living in that small Tampa house on my pension and Social Security. He thought I was scraping by. He thought I was fine. Christine had decided without telling him that my lottery win was none of his business, and that decision would come back to haunt her. 2 days later, I called Anna. Mom, she said. Her voice was bright, happy. I was just thinking about you. I'm coming over on Sunday. Do you need anything from the store? Actually, Anna, I do need something. Of course. What is it? I had some unexpected medical bills come up, about $2,000. I was wondering if you could help me out. There was a pause. Then, are you okay? What kind of medical bills? Just tests, follow-ups, nothing serious. But insurance didn't cover everything. $2,000, yes. Mom, of course. I can bring it on Sunday. Do you need it sooner? I can drive over today if it's urgent. I felt my throat tighten. Sunday is fine, sweetheart. Are you sure you're okay? I'm sure. Okay, I'll see you Sunday. I love you. I love you too. When Anna arrived on Sunday, she handed me an envelope. Inside was $2,000 in cash. Mom, are you sure you're okay? She asked, her eyes full of concern. I'm fine, I said. Because if you need more, this is enough. Thank you, Anna. She hugged me tightly. You don't ever have to thank me, she said. You're my mom. That night after Anna left, I sat on the porch and thought about the 2 phone calls. Christine had said no. Anna had said yes. But it wasn't just about the money. Christine had a new SUV, a big house, a successful business, 2 kids in private school. Anna was a teacher. She lived in a small apartment. She drove a 12-year-old Honda, and yet Anna had said yes without hesitation. Christine had everything, and she'd said no. Anna had so little, and she'd offered to drive over that same day. The test was over, and I knew the truth. What I didn't know then, what I wouldn't learn until much later, was that the SUV wasn't paid off. Neither was the house. Neither were the vacations, the private school tuition, or the designer clothes. Christine and Robert were living on credit, and the bills were coming due. But at that moment, all I knew was this. One daughter had shown up, and one hadn't. 2 weeks later, I called Marcus. I need you to do something for me, I said. What? I need you to look into my daughter's financial situations. I need to know how much debt they're carrying. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Helen, are you sure? Yes? Some of that information is private. I can pull public records mortgages, business filings, court documents, but student loans, personal credit cards, I can't access those without permission. Pull what you can. Okay. A week later, he called me back. Helen, he said carefully, I have the information you asked for. Tell me. Christine and Robert owe around $285,000. Mortgage about $180,000. Business line of credit $75,000. Credit cards around $30,000. And that's just what I could find publicly. I stared at the numbers. $285,000. Christine had refused to help me with $4,000. And now I knew she was drowning. And Anna, I asked. Marcus hesitated. Anna's debt is private. Student loans. I can't access that without her permission. And I won't. But you think it's significant. Yes. I sat back in my chair. Anna had given me $2,000 without hesitation. How much debt was she carrying? I didn't know. And I wouldn't find out until months later. 2 months after Thanksgiving. We left Tampa on a cold January morning. The moving truck was small, just our clothes, a few boxes of paperwork, and the things Anna couldn't leave behind. Photos, books, a coffee mug her students had given her with "World's Best Teacher" printed on the side. Everything else we left. The house, the furniture, the life I'd built there. Gone. Anna drove. I sat in the passenger seat watching Florida disappear in the rearview mirror. Are you scared? She asked. Terrified, I said. Me too. We drove in silence for a while. Do you think Christine will ever forgive me? I asked. Anna was quiet for a long moment. I don't know, Mom, she said finally, but I don't think that's why we're doing this. Then why are we doing this? She glanced at me. Because we can. Because we have $68 million and a chance to do something that actually matters. I nodded. She was right. We arrived in Nashville just after sunset. The apartment was small, 2 bedrooms, barely furnished, nothing like what we'd left behind, but it was ours. Anna unpacked the coffee mug first, set it on the kitchen counter like a promise. New life, she said. New life, I repeated. That night, we sat on the floor eating takeout, and Anna pulled out a notebook. Okay, she said. Let's figure this out. What do we call it? The foundation. Yeah, what's our mission? I thought about Christine, about the test, about all the families drowning in debt because one medical bill, one job loss, one mistake had pushed them over the edge. Second chances, I said. We give people second chances. Anna smiled. Second Chance Foundation. Perfect. The next morning, I called Marcus Fleming, the estate attorney who'd handled my lottery claim. I need your help, I said. I want to start a nonprofit, but I need to stay anonymous. How anonymous? Invisible. He was quiet for a moment. That's tricky. Nonprofits have to register publicly. Board members are listed. What if we use a trust? Smart, he said. Set up the Montgomery Family Trust as the founding entity. You're the trustee, but your personal name won't appear on public filings, just the trust name. Your daughter can serve as executive director under her own name. And if someone digs deeper, they'll find a trust registered in your maiden name, Montgomery. Your signature will be on incorporation documents, but unless someone knows your handwriting, they won't make the connection. As long as you don't put your face in the news, you'll stay invisible. I thought about Christine, about the years she'd spent ignoring my calls, about the way she'd dismissed me when I'd asked for help. She won't look, I thought. She's too busy, too proud. Let's do it, I said. Within 3 weeks, we had the paperwork filed. Second Chance Foundation, founded by Montgomery Family Trust trustee, Marcus Fleming, Esquire founder, and signatory Helen Montgomery. Executive Director Anna Mitchell. No photos, no public statements. Just a quiet foundation funded by a woman who wanted to disappear. Anna found a small office downtown, 1 room, 2 desks, a window that looked out onto the street. It's not much, she said. It's perfect, I said. We hung a sign on the door, Second Chance Foundation, financial counseling and debt relief. And we opened for business, a Tuesday morning in February. I stood by the window watching Anna interview our first client. Her name was Grace. Single mother, 6-year-old daughter who'd survived leukemia, medical bills that had destroyed her financially. I owe $140,000, Grace said quietly, her hands shaking as she held the folder. I've been paying $500 a month for 2 years. The balance hasn't gone down. It's all interest. Anna reached across the desk and took her hand. We can help, she said. I watched Anna's face, calm, steady, kind. the same face she'd worn when she'd shown up at my door a year ago with $2,000 she didn't have. This is who she is, I thought. This is who she's always been. Over the next 2 weeks, Anna negotiated with the hospital, got the bill reduced to $80,000, set up a zero-interest payment plan. We gave Grace a $10,000 grant to catch up on rent. When Grace came back to sign the paperwork, she cried. "I thought I was going to lose my apartment," she said. "I thought we'd be homeless." "You're not going to be homeless," Anna said. Grace hugged her. And I realized this was it. This was what the money was for. By the end of February, we'd helped 10 families, small grants, debt negotiations, financial counseling. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't fast. But it was real. Anna thrived. She'd stay late reviewing applications, calling creditors, walking clients through budgets. She had a gift for this, for seeing people, for believing in them when they couldn't believe in themselves. I watched her one evening on the phone with a man who'd lost his job and was 3 months behind on his mortgage. "You're not a failure," she said gently. "You're just in a hard spot, and we're going to get you through it." She hung up and looked at me. "This is what we're supposed to be doing," she said. I nodded. She was right. Christine called once that month. "How's Nashville?" "Good, busy." "What are you doing for work?" "Nonprofit consulting," I said. The lie came easily now. "That's great, Mom." A pause. "We should visit sometime." "You should." But she didn't. By the end of our first month, we'd distributed $50,000 in grants and helped families negotiate another $200,000 in debt reductions. It wasn't much, not compared to the $68 million sitting in the trust, but it was a start. Anna and I sat in the office one evening reviewing applications for the next round of funding. "Do you ever regret it?" she asked. "The test," I thought about it. "No," I said. "I regret that she failed, but I don't regret knowing." Anna nodded. "What about you?" I asked. "Do you regret helping me that day?" She looked at me surprised. "Mom, that's the best thing I ever did." Early February, year 2, 1 year after moving to Nashville. The insurance papers were supposed to be in Anna's filing box. That's what she'd told me when I asked about the foundation's liability coverage, something routine I needed for a lease renewal. "Top shelf of my closet," she'd said. "Green folder, you'll find it." I found the green folder, but wedged behind it, half hidden between 2 binders, was a white envelope with a return address I recognized immediately, National Student Loan Services. I almost put it back. "It's not your business, Helen," but my hands were already pulling the paper out. Account summary. Current balance. $65,420.55. Original loan amount, $85,000. Monthly payment, $800. Years in repayment, 12. I sat down on the edge of her bed, the letter shaking in my hands. 12 years. She'd been paying $800 a month for 12 years, nearly $10,000 a year, and she still owed over $65,000. The interest alone had devoured tens of thousands of dollars, and she'd never said a word. I thought back to that phone call a year ago, when I'd pretended to be desperate, when I'd asked for help. "I don't have much, but I'll bring everything I have." She'd been drowning. She still was. And instead of asking me her mother, the woman who just won $68 million, she'd handed me $2,000 she couldn't afford to give. I felt sick. When Anna came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table. The letter was in front of me. She saw it the moment she walked in. Her face went pale. "Mom, why didn't you tell me?" She set her bag down slowly like she was buying time. "It's my debt, my responsibility." "Anna," I stood up, my voice breaking. "You gave me money when you owed this." "You needed help. And you didn't—" She looked away. "I was managing. I gestured at the letter. "You've been paying on this for 12 years. At this rate, you'll be paying for another 18. Do you understand what that means?" "I understand compound interest, Mom," she said quietly. She stopped, took a breath. "I didn't want you to feel like you had to fix it, but I do have to fix it," I said, my voice shaking. "Because you're my daughter, and because you showed up for me when I had nothing, when I pretended to have nothing, and you didn't hesitate." Her eyes filled with tears. "You don't have to—" "I already called Marcus," I said. "It's done. The full balance will be paid off by the end of the week. She stared at me. You've carried this long enough, I said. Let me do this, please. For a long moment, she didn't move. And then she crossed the room and wrapped her arms around me, and I held her the way I should have held her years ago, before the test, before the distance, before everything fell apart. Thank you, she whispered. Don't thank me, I said. You've already given me more than I deserved. A few days later, Marcus called. Christine reached out, he said. His voice was tight. She's asking for money. I closed my eyes. How much? $15,000 for Madison. Madison. Christine's daughter, 17, bright, ambitious. I'd seen her graduation photos on social media, cap and gown, honor cords, that confident smile. What's it for? I asked. A summer program at Oxford, 6 weeks. Pre-college enrichment. She got accepted, but they can't pay for it. Christine says the Tampa market crashed last fall. Her brokerage lost 60% of its listings. Robert's construction business lost 3 major contracts. They're moving to Franklin next month to start fresh, but right now they're tapped out. I didn't say anything. The program starts in June, Marcus continued. Tuition, housing, flights, about $15,000 total. Christine wanted to know if you could help. What did you tell her? I told her I'd ask. I thought about it. About Christine a year ago telling me she couldn't lend me $4,000 because she just bought a new SUV. About Anna handing me $2,000 she didn't have while drowning in $65,000 of debt. And I thought about Madison, a kid, 17, smart, excited about Oxford. Not her fault. Tell her no, I said. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Are you sure? I'm sure. But even as I said it, I felt something shift inside me. Not anger. Not even satisfaction. Resolve. Marcus, I said, I need you to do something else. What? Pull Christine's financials, everything, debt, income, assets. I want the full picture. There was a pause. Helen, are you thinking what I think you're thinking? Maybe. You're going to help her anyway, aren't you? Not directly, I said, and not the way she expects. What are you planning? I looked out the window at the Nashville skyline in the distance. I'm going to teach her what Anna taught me, I said quietly. That some people show up when you have nothing, and some people only show up when you have everything. And Madison, I smiled. Madison's going to Oxford. The foundation grew faster than I'd expected. By the end of year 1, we'd helped over 100 families. By the middle of year 2, we'd helped over 200. We expanded our staff, hired 2 more financial counselors, opened a larger office, started offering workshops on budgeting, credit repair, and debt management. Anna was the heart of it all. She worked with clients during the day, taught at night, and still found time to run our board meetings. She was tireless, and I was proud. But I kept thinking about Christine. Marcus had been tracking her financial situation since the beginning. One afternoon in late spring of year 2, he called me into his office. Helen, we need to talk about Christine. He slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. At the top, a number $613,000. I stared at it. $613,000, Marcus said quietly. That's what they owe now. My stomach dropped. How? I asked. In year 0, it was $285,000. The Tampa real estate market collapsed in the fall of year 1, Marcus said. Christine's income dropped 70% almost overnight. Robert's construction business lost major contracts. They started using credit cards to cover everything: mortgage, car payments, private school tuition. He tapped the paper. High interest debt, 18 to 24% APR. Every month, interest piles on. Every month, the balance grows even when they're not spending. I looked at the number again. $613,000. Helen, they're paying over $6,500 a month just in interest and penalties. That money does nothing to reduce what they owe. It just keeps them trapped. I felt sick. Where is it all going? I asked. Marcus pulled out a second page, a breakdown. Credit cards, almost $200,000 across 8 cards. Maxed out. That's over $3,500 a month in interest alone. Business line of credit, $180,000. They used it to cover payroll when clients couldn't pay on time. Mortgage, $180,000. They're 2 months behind. Vendor debt, $35,000. Some suppliers are threatening lawsuits. Payroll arrears, $20,000. They haven't been able to pay their crew on time for 3 months. Employees are threatening to quit. He paused. Helen, they're not just drowning in debt. They're about to lose everything, the business, the house, their employees, everything. I sat there staring at the numbers. Christine wasn't living large. She wasn't buying yachts or taking luxury vacations. She was trapped in a system designed to crush people who made one wrong move, and she was too proud to ask for help. "What do you want me to do?" Marcus asked. I thought about it. About Christine a year ago telling me she couldn't help me because she'd just bought a new SUV. About Anna handing me $2,000 she didn't have while drowning in $65,000 of debt. And I thought about Madison, 17, bright, ambitious. Not her fault. "Marcus," I said, "I want to set up a scholarship fund." 2 weeks later, in late May of year 1, right after Madison's high school graduation, she received a letter. She'd been awarded a $15,000 supplemental grant from the Second Chance Foundation, renewable for 4 years of college, as long as she maintained a 3.0 GPA. The letter said she could use the first payment for the Oxford summer program, and subsequent payments would cover her tuition gap at Vanderbilt. Christine called me the next day ecstatic. "Mom Madison got this amazing scholarship, $15,000 a year renewable for all 4 years. "That's wonderful," I said. "And she can use the first payment for Oxford this summer. It's like it was made for her." Christine's voice was bright with relief. Madison already has a merit scholarship from Vanderbilt that covers most of her tuition, but there was still a gap, and we definitely couldn't afford Oxford. This changes everything. She paused. "Robert is over the moon. He keeps saying, 'See, hard work pays off. She earned this.'" I bit my tongue. Madison had earned her Vanderbilt merit scholarship, but the supplemental grant, that was me. But Christine didn't ask questions. She didn't look up the foundation. She didn't wonder who was behind it. She was too busy trying to keep up appearances in Franklin, too busy juggling credit card bills and dodging creditors' calls. Too busy pretending everything was fine while drowning in over $600,000 of debt. She had no mental space left to investigate an anonymous scholarship foundation. And even if she had searched, she would have found Second Chance Foundation, founded by the Montgomery Family Trust, a name that meant nothing to her. Christine had been living in Franklin, 30 minutes from Nashville, for 4 months by then, and she hadn't visited once. By the end of year 2, the foundation had helped over 200 families. We distributed over $3 million in debt relief loans and financial counseling. Anna was thriving. I was thriving. And Christine was 30 minutes away, but she still hadn't come to visit. One evening, Anna and I sat on the porch. "Do you think she'll ever show up?" Anna asked quietly. "I don't know." "Does it still hurt?" I thought about it. "Yes," I said, "but not as much as it used to." Anna squeezed my hand. "You have me," she said. "I know," I said, "and that's enough." But deep down, I wondered if it really was. Spring year 3. Marcus called on a Monday morning. "Hastings Construction just submitted a loan application to the foundation," he said. I set down my coffee. "Christine's business. Robert's technically, but yes. How much?" $50,000. I was quiet for a moment. "What's it for?" I asked. "Payroll, vendor payments. They're 3 months behind on both. Employees are threatening to quit. Vendors are threatening to sue. If they don't get an infusion of capital in the next 30 days, the business folds." I thought about Ruth's reports, about Christine's debt climbing from $285,000 to over $600,000, about the compound interest trap she'd been drowning in for 2 years. "What do you think?" I asked. "I think this is why you started the foundation," Marcus said quietly, "to help people who are drowning, to give them a lifeline when no one else will, even if they wouldn't do the same for me, especially then." I closed my eyes. "Approve the loan," I said. $50,000, 0% interest, standard terms, 6 months of financial counseling, weekly budget check-ins. Done. 2 days later, Marcus called again. "Robert had questions," he said. "What kind of questions?" "The kind you'd expect from someone who's been burned before." Marcus recounted the conversation. "Why us?" Robert had asked the loan officer. "We're barely staying afloat. Why would you give us $50,000 at 0%? The Second Chance Foundation specializes in helping small family businesses on the edge, the officer explained. You meet the criteria established business temporary cash flow crisis willingness to undergo financial counseling. But 0% interest, Robert pressed. That doesn't make sense. No one loans money without interest. Our mission is to break the debt trap, not add to it, the officer said calmly. High interest would defeat the purpose. We're not a bank. We're a charitable foundation. Robert had been quiet for a moment. What about the counseling? He'd asked. 6 months of weekly check-ins, that's intense. That's the deal, the officer said. We don't just throw money at problems. We help you fix the root cause. If you're not willing to do the work, we can't help you. Another pause. And if I say no, then you say no. But I'll be honest with you, Mr. Hastings, you're out of options. You're 3 months behind on payroll. Your crew is about to walk. Your vendors are about to sue. If this business goes under, you lose everything. Robert had stared at the loan documents for a long time. What's the catch? He'd asked finally. No catch, the officer said. Just a foundation trying to do some good. Marcus paused. And then he signed, he said. I sat with that for a moment. He didn't trust it, I said. No, but he was desperate. Annie never asked who was behind it. Never. I think part of him didn't want to know. Because if he knew, he'd have to feel something about it. Gratitude, shame, obligation. Easier to believe it's just a faceless charity doing good work. I understood that. Christine was the same way. Too proud to ask questions. Too busy surviving to look too closely. 3 days later, the loan was dispersed. $20,000 went to payroll, $30,000 to vendors. The crisis was averted. Ruth Anderson, the financial counselor we'd assigned, began her weekly check-ins with Robert and Christine. And over the next 18 months, I watched from a distance as they slowly, painfully began to dig themselves out. Not because they knew I was helping, but because anyone had finally thrown them a lifeline. Over the next year, I watched Christine transform. Not up close, not as her mother, but from a distance through monthly reports from Ruth Anderson, the financial counselor we'd assigned to Hastings Construction. Ruth never mentioned my name. She never hinted at my involvement, but she kept me informed. And every month I opened those reports with the same mix of hope and heartbreak. June year 3. Hastings Construction made their first loan payment on time. The crisis funds covered payroll and critical vendor debt. Employees are staying. Lawsuits avoided. They have breathing room now. I read it twice. Breathing room. That's all it took. $50,000 and someone who cared enough to offer it without strings. I thought about the desperation Christine must have felt. How humiliating it must have been to apply for that loan, to admit she needed help, to fill out forms detailing every mistake, every maxed out credit card, every late payment. And I'd helped her. Not as her mother, but as a stranger. I didn't know if that made it better or worse. July year 3. First budget meeting went well. Christine brought 3 months of bank statements. She cried when she saw the total interest she'd been paying. But she didn't run. She stayed. She's ready to do the work. I sat on my porch reading those words, and I could picture it so clearly. Christine sitting in Ruth's office, her hands shaking as she looked at the numbers she'd been avoiding for months, maybe years. The total interest, tens of thousands of dollars poured into credit card companies while her own employees went unpaid. She cried. I wondered what she was thinking in that moment. If she was angry at herself, if she was scared, if she felt ashamed. I wondered if she thought about me at all. If she remembered the phone call 4 years ago when I'd asked her for help, when she'd told me no because she'd just bought a new car. Did she see the irony now? That the mother she'd refused to help was the one saving her from drowning? Probably not. She still didn't know. August year 3. Major milestone this month, they cut up their 3rd credit card. Christine closed her biggest sale in 2 years, put the entire commission toward the mortgage arrears. For the first time, they're making real progress. I smiled when I read that. 3rd card cut up. Not paid off, not hidden in a drawer with a promise to only use it for emergencies. Cut up. That was the difference between wanting to change and actually changing. I thought about all the clients Anna and I had worked with over the years, the ones who said they wanted help but kept the cards, just in case. The ones who promised to stick to a budget but couldn't resist one more purchase, one more excuse. Christine was different. She was doing the work, and I was proud of her, even if she'd never know. October year 3. Debt is now below $515,000. Robert renegotiated vendor contracts. He's learned to ask for payment terms instead of putting everything on credit. Christine has stopped using cards except for true emergencies. And Helen, I saw Robert smile during our check-in this week. He said, "I think we're going to make it." I believed him. I cried when I read that. He smiled. Robert, the proud man who'd built his business from nothing. The man who'd been too ashamed to admit he was drowning. The man who'd signed loan documents with 0% interest and probably wondered what the catch was. He smiled, and he said, "I think we're going to make it." I sat on the porch that evening, the report in my lap, and let myself feel it. Not just pride, but something deeper. Relief. Because for the first time in years, I believed it too. They were going to make it. November year 3. Christine told me something this week. She said, "For the first time in 3 years, I slept through the night without waking up in a panic about money." That's what breaking the compound interest trap looks like, Helen. That's what you gave them. I sat with that for a long time. Sleep. Something so simple. So basic. Something most people take for granted. And Christine hadn't had it in years. Because when you're drowning in debt, you don't sleep. You lie awake at 3 a.m. doing math in your head, calculating how long you can hold off the mortgage payment, wondering if the credit card company will accept a partial payment, worrying about the employee who needs their paycheck and the vendor who's threatening to sue. You don't sleep because every time you close your eyes, you see the numbers, the balances, the interest piling on, the trap closing tighter and tighter until you can't breathe. And now Christine could sleep. I thought about all the nights I'd lain awake worrying about her, wondering if she was okay, wondering if she'd lose everything before I could help. And now she could sleep. That's what you gave them, Ruth had written. But I'd given myself something too. The knowledge that even when Christine didn't know it was me, even when she'd never thank me, never acknowledge what I'd done, I'd saved her. Not because she deserved it, but because I loved her. December year 3. Final report for the year monthly interest payments have dropped from $6,500 to under $2,000. That means most of their payments now go toward principal, not just feeding the debt monster. This is how you break free. Helen, whatever your relationship is to this family, you saved them. Not just from bankruptcy, from despair. I sat on the porch that evening as the sun set over Nashville Ruth's report in my lap. You saved them, not just from bankruptcy, from despair. I thought about the test, about the phone call 4 years ago when I'd asked Christine for help and she'd said no. I'd been so angry then, so hurt. I'd wanted her to fail. I'd wanted her to feel what it was like to need help and be turned away. But somewhere along the way, that anger had softened. Not because Christine had changed, not because she'd apologized or even acknowledged what she'd done, but because I'd realized something. Watching someone you love suffer, even someone who hurt you, doesn't feel like justice. It just feels like grief. Spring year 4. By the time spring arrived, Christine's debt had dropped below $400,000. Ruth's reports came less frequently now, once every 2 months instead of once a month. The crisis was over. The work was maintenance, now steady payments, disciplined budgeting, slow but real progress. "They're doing well," Ruth wrote in April. Christine closed another big sale last month. Robert hired back 2 employees he'd had to let go last year. They're rebuilding. Slowly, but they're rebuilding. I folded the letter and tucked it into my desk drawer with all the others. A year's worth of reports, a year's worth of progress, a year of watching my daughter fight her way out of a trap she'd built for herself. And I'd been there the whole time, not as her mother, but as a stranger who cared. Fall year 4. By the time fall arrived, Christine's debt had dropped to $380,000, a reduction of $233,000 in less than 2 years. Ruth's final report included a handwritten note at the bottom. "Helen, I don't know what your relationship is to this family, but I want you to know you saved them. They'll never know it was you, but I know. And I wanted you to know that what you did matters." I read it 3 times. What you did matters. It did, but it also hurt. because Christine still had no idea. Christine called me twice that year, once in March to tell me Madison had made the dean's list again, once in September to tell me Ethan, her younger son, who I barely knew, had won his first debate competition. Both calls were brief, surface level, the kind of calls you make out of obligation, not love. "How are you, Mom?" "Good, busy." "That's great. We should get together soon." "We should." She never followed through, and I stopped expecting her to. Madison was thriving at Vanderbilt. She was a junior now, halfway through her degree. She'd used the scholarship for the Oxford summer program right after high school graduation in year 1. Then she'd started Vanderbilt in the fall of year 2. By now, the foundation had covered $52,500 Oxford plus 2.5 years at Vanderbilt. The scholarship covered the tuition gap beyond her merit award, so Christine's family only had to pay around $8,000 a year. Manageable, even with their debt. But Christine still had no idea where that money came from. She'd never asked. She'd never looked. She was too busy surviving, and maybe that was the saddest part. Not that she'd refused to help me 4 years ago, but that even after everything, after the market crash, after the debt spiral, after nearly losing everything, she still didn't have the mental space to wonder who was helping her. One evening in late September, Anna and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. "Do you ever regret helping Christine?" she asked quietly. I thought about it, about the monthly reports, about Ruth's handwritten notes, about the $233,000 reduction in Christine's debt, about Madison thriving at Vanderbilt, about Robert smiling and saying, "I think we're going to make it." "No," I said. "I don't regret helping her. But I regret that she doesn't know. I regret that she never showed up. I regret that she's 30 minutes away and hasn't visited once in 3 years." Anna squeezed my hand. "What if she finds out?" I looked at my daughter, the one who'd shown up, who'd stayed, who'd built this life with me. "Then we'll deal with it," I said. 3 weeks later, Christine found out. And everything changed. Mid-October, year 4. Christine had been living in Franklin, 30 minutes from Nashville, for over 2.5 years. She'd never visited. Marcus called me on a Tuesday afternoon. His voice was tight. "Christine knows," he said. My stomach dropped. "How?" A loan officer at her bank mentioned the foundation during a refinancing meeting, said they'd been helping small businesses in the area. Christine asked for the name. The officer showed her a brochure, and the brochure had a photo from a ribbon-cutting ceremony last year. Anna's in it, standing in front of the new office. The caption lists her as Executive Director of Second Chance Foundation. I closed my eyes. Christine didn't recognize her at first. Marcus continued. "It's been 4 years, but then she asked to see the full incorporation documents, and she saw my name. She saw the signature," Marcus said quietly, "on the trust registration, on the loan approval forms. She said she'd know your handwriting anywhere." I thought about all the birthday cards I'd signed over the years, all the school permission slips, all the notes I'd tucked into Christine's lunchbox when she was little. "Love, Mom." The same looping M, the same slant to the letters. She'd seen it 1,000 times, and now she'd seen it on the documents that had saved her business. "What did she say?" I asked. She didn't say anything. She just asked for copies of everything. The loan agreement, the scholarship letters for Madison, the board registration, all of it. "Did you give it to her?" "I had to. It's public record." I was quiet for a moment. "Marcus, how angry is she?" He hesitated. "I don't know," he said, "but Helen, she's coming to see you." The next day, Christine showed up at my apartment. She didn't call first, didn't text. She just appeared. I opened the door, and there she was, standing in the hallway, clutching a folder, her face pale and tight. "We need to talk," she said. "If you're still here, leave a comment below. The next knot in this story is about to unravel, but before it does, what do you think will happen to this lie? Share your prediction before we continue. A quick note, the next part includes some fictionalized elements and may not be entirely real. If this style isn't for you, you're free to stop watching here. Task 10. Mid-October, year 4. Christine showed up at my apartment unannounced. I opened the door, and there she was standing in the hallway, clutching a folder, her face pale and tight. "We need to talk," she said. I made tea. She didn't touch it. She sat across from me at the kitchen table and opened the folder. Inside were bank documents and corporation filings, a newsletter clipping with Anna's photo, and at the bottom, loan approval forms. With my signature, I'd know that handwriting anywhere. Christine said quietly, "Every birthday card, every permission slip, every note you ever wrote me." Her voice broke. "It was you, the whole time." I didn't deny it. "Why?" she asked. "Because you needed help." "I asked you for help." Her voice rose. 4 years ago, and you said no." "I know. So why help me after that?" I looked at her directly. "Because I wanted to see if you could make it. By watching me drown, you weren't drowning when I tested you, Christine. You were buying new cars and living large. You only started drowning after the market crashed and the bills came due." She flinched. "Anna was drowning in $65,000 of debt when I called her, and she brought me everything she had. $2,000 she didn't have." I paused. "Well, you told me no because of a car." Christine's hands trembled. "The loan, $50,000, that was you." "Yes." "Madison's scholarship, $15,000 a year, that was you too." "Yes." "How much?" Her voice cracked. "How much have you spent on us?" I stood and walked to the window. "Does it matter?" "Yes." I turned back. "Madison's education, your payroll, your vendors, all of it covered. Not because you earned it, but because I couldn't watch my granddaughter lose her future because her mother was too proud to ask for help." My voice shook. "You thought that money fell from the sky, that Montgomery Trust you never bothered to look up. That was me, Christine. Your mother, the one you thought was broke, paying your employees. Keeping your business alive." She stared at the documents. "I didn't know," she whispered. "You didn't look because you were too busy, too proud, too focused on keeping up appearances." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Then Christine stood her chair scraping. "I need time," she said. "I need to think." "Of course." She gathered the papers, hands shaking. "Christine, please," she said, voice breaking. "Just give me time." And she left. I sat staring at the empty chair. The tea had gone cold. The apartment was quiet, and I didn't know if she'd ever call back. 2 days later, Robert called. "Christine told me," he said. His voice was tight, controlled. "Yes." The lottery, the foundation, everything. There was a long pause. "She also told me about the test." I closed my eyes. "Robert." "No, you don't get to explain, not yet." I waited. "Do you know what it's like," he said slowly, "to realize the lifeline that saved your business came from your mother-in-law, the one your wife told you was broke?" His voice cracked. "Christine lied to me for 4 years, and the whole time you were keeping us afloat." I didn't know what to say. "You helped us," he said finally, "and I'm grateful. But you also lied. You tested Christine like an experiment, and now she's torn apart. Maybe we both failed," I said quietly. Another pause. "Christine wants me to tell you to stay away. She doesn't want you at Thanksgiving. She doesn't want you calling." My chest tightened. "And what do you want?" He sighed. "I don't know. I'm angry, grateful, resentful. I don't know how to feel about any of it." "That's fair. But Helen..." "Yes, thank you." His voice softened. "For saving us, even if you did it the wrong way. Thank you." He hung up. I sat on the couch and cried. Not because Robert thanked me, but because Christine had told him to keep me away. That evening, Anna came over. She pulled me into a hug. "She knows," I said. I figured. "Robert called. He thanked me, but Christine wants me gone." Anna looked at me. "Are you okay?" "No," I said, "but I will be." "Do you regret it?" "The test." I shook my head. "No, I regret that it hurt, but I don't regret knowing the truth." "What now?" I looked out at the Nashville skyline. Now I wait. I leave the door open, but I stop standing in the doorway. "What does that mean?" "It means I won't chase her anymore. If she wants to come back, she knows where I am. But I'm done waiting for her to decide if I'm worth loving." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I love you, Mom." "I love you too." The next morning, I checked my phone. No calls, no texts, no emails from Christine. And for the first time in 4 years, I didn't feel the weight of waiting. I felt peace, not because Christine forgave me, but because I'd finally forgiven myself. I opened my laptop and reviewed the foundation's applications. 3 families needed help with medical debt. 2 needed housing assistance. 1 needed a business loan. I approved them all, because that's what the money was for, not to buy love, but to help people who needed it, even when they'd never know my name, especially then. Christine didn't call that week, or the next, and slowly I stopped waiting. The weekend after Thanksgiving, Christine called 5 times. I let every call go to voicemail. The first message came Friday morning. "Mom, we need to talk about what happened. That was completely unacceptable. Call me back." Saturday afternoon. "I've been thinking about this, and I just don't understand how you could do this to your own family. You owe us an explanation, a real one." Sunday evening. "Fine, if you want to play the silent treatment game, that's your choice. But don't expect me to just forgive this." Tuesday. "Madison is upset. Ethan doesn't understand. You've hurt your whole family, Mom. I hope you realize that." Friday, 2 weeks later. "You know what? Maybe this is for the best. If this is who you really are, maybe we're better off without each other." I sat at my kitchen table, phone in hand, listening to each voicemail with Anna beside me. "She's not apologizing," Anna observed quietly. "No." "She's not asking how you're doing." "No." "She's not acknowledging that she failed the test. She's just angry that you gave it." I set the phone down. "She thinks I'm the villain in this story. Are you going to call her back?" I thought about that for a long time, about 4 years of waiting, 4 years of anonymous help, 4 years of hoping she'd show up. "No," I said finally. I said everything I needed to say. "What if she keeps calling? Then I'll keep not answering." Anna squeezed my hand. "Is that cruel? Maybe, but I can't keep waiting for her to become someone she's not." Marcus called a few days later. "Have you heard from Christine?" "Voicemails. She tried to reach me too. Wanted to know the exact financials of the foundation, how much you'd spent on her family, whether she could pay it back. I told her it was all anonymous donations, and I couldn't discuss specifics. How did she take that? Not well. She said, and I quote, 'Tell my mother she can't buy forgiveness.'" I closed my eyes. I wasn't trying to buy forgiveness. I was trying to buy change. I know. In mid-December, Madison sent a text not to me, but to Anna. "Aunt Anna, I don't know what to think. Mom says Grandma manipulated us, but the scholarship changed my life. I don't know who to believe." Anna showed me the message. "What should I say?" I read it twice, my heart aching. "Tell her the truth," I said. "Tell her I love her. Tell her my door is always open if she needs me. But tell her I can't chase her mother anymore." Anna typed carefully. "Your grandma loves you very much. She helped you because she believed in you not to manipulate you. What happened between her and your mom is complicated. They both have their truths. But you're not in the middle of this. You're loved by everyone, no matter what." Madison responded hours later. "Thank you. I love you both. This is just really hard." On New Year's Eve, I made a decision. I blocked Christine's number. Anna watched me do it, her expression unreadable. "Are you sure?" she asked. "Yes." I set the phone down. I gave her 4 years. I gave her money, help opportunities. I gave her Thanksgiving. She chose anger over accountability. She chose pride over love. What if she changes her mind and then she knows where I live? I looked at my daughter, the one who'd shown up, who'd stayed, who'd built this life with me. But I'm not waiting anymore. Anna pulled me into a hug. "Is this closure?" I held her tight. "No, but it's peace." Outside, fireworks began to explode, Nashville celebrating the new year. Inside, I felt something I hadn't felt in years, free. Not happy, not healed, but free. And for now, that was enough. 5 years after the lottery. 6 months after the confrontation. My phone never rang with Christine's name. My inbox stayed empty. No emails, no texts, no messages marked read, but unanswered. I didn't block her number. I didn't delete her contact. I left the door open the way you leave a porch light on for someone who might never come home. But she didn't come. And after a while, I stopped checking. Spring arrived in Nashville quietly, the way seasons do when you're no longer counting days. The foundation continued to grow. By April, 5 years to the month since I'd stood in that convenience store buying a lottery ticket that changed everything, we'd helped over 500 families rebuild their financial lives. 500. I thought about that number sometimes. 500 families who'd been drowning in medical debt, student loans, credit card bills. 500 families who'd been one emergency away from losing everything. And we'd thrown them a lifeline. Not because they deserved it, not because they'd earned it, but because everyone deserves a second chance, even the people who wouldn't give you one. Anna managed the day-to-day operations now with a confidence and joy that made my heart sing. She'd hired 2 more full-time counselors, expanded our workshop programs to include financial literacy classes for high school students, partnered with local businesses to create apprenticeship opportunities. The work was sustainable, meaningful, exactly what I'd hoped it would be, and Anna was thriving. One afternoon in early March, she came into my office and closed the door. "We got another application," she said quietly. "For what?" "Emergency business loan, $50,000. I looked up from my laptop. "Who?" She hesitated. "Hastings Construction." My stomach dropped. Again, Anna nodded. "Robert applied. The construction market took another hit. They're behind on payroll again, not as bad as last time, but bad enough. He's asking for another loan." I sat back in my chair processing. "What do you think I asked?" Anna was quiet for a moment. "I think he's learned," she said finally. "The first loan, he used it right. They paid it back on time. They did the counseling. They restructured their debt. They're in a much better place than they were 3 years ago. But I also think he's relying on us as a safety net, and I don't know if that's healthy." I thought about Christine, about the silence that had stretched between us for 6 months, about the fact that she'd never called, never apologized, never acknowledged what I'd done for her family. "Deny it," I said. Anna blinked. "What?" "Deny the application. Give him the contact information for 3 other business loan programs, ones with low interest rates and good terms, but don't approve ours." "Mom." "Anna, we're not a bank. We're not a permanent safety net. The whole point of what we do is to help people get back on their feet so they don't need us anymore." She nodded slowly. "You're right. And if Robert can't make it without us, then maybe he needs to make different choices." Anna left to draft the denial letter, and I sat there feeling the weight of it. "I'm still helping you," I thought, "even when you don't know it, even when you'll never thank me." 2 weeks later, an email appeared in my personal inbox from an address I didn't recognize. Subject from Madison. I almost didn't open it, almost deleted it thinking it was spam. But something made me click. "Grandma, I'm using a new email so Mom doesn't see this. I wanted you to know I'm okay. I'm finishing my degree this spring and I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened. I don't think you're the villain Mom says you are, but I also don't think she's completely wrong. What you did was complicated. Maybe it was the only way you could get the truth. Maybe it was unfair. I honestly don't know. But I know the scholarship changed my life. I know you helped my family when we needed it most. And I know Mom hasn't tried to contact you, which makes me sad. She's still angry. She talks about you like you betrayed her, and maybe you did, but she never asks if she betrayed you first. I don't want to be in the middle, but I wanted you to know I love you. And I understand, at least a little, why you did it. I graduate in May. I don't know if you'll be there. I don't know if Mom will let you be there. But I wanted you to know you're invited, at least in my heart. Love, Madison. I read the email 3 times, tears streaming down my face. My granddaughter, 17 when I'd tested Christine. 22 now, a college graduate, a woman who could think for herself. And she didn't hate me. I wiped my eyes and wrote back. "Sweetheart, thank you for reaching out. I love you too more than you know. What happened between your mother and me is complicated, and you're right. Neither of us is completely right or completely wrong. But I don't regret the test. I needed the truth, even though it hurt. Your mother made a choice 5 years ago when she told me she couldn't help me because she'd bought a new car. And I made a choice 6 months ago when I told her the truth about the lottery and the foundation. Both choices had consequences, and we're both living with them. My door is always open if you need me, but I won't chase your mother anymore. That doesn't mean I don't love her. It means I love myself enough to stop waiting for her to love me back. I'm proud of you. Keep asking hard questions. Keep thinking for yourself. And know that no matter what happens between me and your mother, you will always, always have a place in my life. I won't come to your graduation unless your mother invites me. I won't put you in that position. But know that I'll be thinking of you. and celebrating you, and wishing I could be there to watch you walk across that stage. Love, Grandma. I hit send and closed my laptop, and then I let myself cry. Not because I was sad, but because even in the middle of everything broken, something had survived. Madison still loved me, and that was enough. One evening in late April, exactly 5 years after I'd stood in that convenience store buying a ticket that changed my life, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. Anna joined me with 2 glasses of wine. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "Everything." I took the glass she offered. 5 years ago, I felt invisible. I didn't know if anyone would notice if I disappeared. And now I know the answer. I sipped the wine. Some people wouldn't notice. Some people were too busy with their own lives to see mine, and that's okay. Is it? It has to be. I looked at my daughter, the one who'd stayed, who'd sacrificed, who'd shown up every single time. I have you. I have our work. I have 500 families whose lives are better because we chose to help instead of judge. Anna was quiet for a moment. "Do you think Christine will ever apologize?" "I don't know. Maybe, maybe not." I watched the sky turn orange and pink, but I'm not waiting to find out. "Are you angry?" I thought about that carefully. "No," I said. "I'm sad. I'm disappointed. But I'm not angry anymore." "Why not?" "Because anger is exhausting, and because I've learned something in the last 5 years. What's that? That you can love someone and still let them go. That you can wish them well and still refuse to chase them. That you can hold the door open and also know when to stop standing in the doorway, waiting." Anna nodded slowly. "No regrets?" she asked. I thought about that carefully. I regret the years I felt invisible. I regret that Christine chose pride over love. I regret that Madison and Ethan are caught in the middle. But the test? No. I met Anna's eyes. The test gave me the truth, and the truth, as painful as it was, set me free. Anna clinked her glass against mine. "To truth." "To truth," I echoed, "and to showing up." We sat in comfortable silence as the sun dipped below the horizon. 5 years ago, I'd won $68 million and felt empty. I'd had 2 daughters, a comfortable life, and a gnawing loneliness I couldn't name. I'd felt invisible, unimportant, disposable. So I'd tested them. Not because I was cruel, but because I needed to know who would show up when I had nothing. And I got my answer. Christine said no because of a car. Anna said yes and brought me everything she had. The test wasn't fair. It wasn't kind. But it was true. Today I had one daughter who called me every day. One daughter who sat beside me on the porch and shared wine and watched the sunset without needing to fill the silence with words. I had a foundation that had helped 500 families and counting. I had a granddaughter who understood me even when her mother didn't. I had peace. Not the kind of peace that comes from having everything you want, but the kind that comes from knowing exactly what you have and deciding it's enough. Some people say money changes you, but I learned that money doesn't change who you are, it only reveals who you've always been. Christine had always been the daughter who chose comfort over sacrifice. Anna had always been the daughter who chose love over convenience, and I had always been the mother who needed to know the truth, even when it hurt. The lottery didn't change us. It just showed us who we already were. I never blocked Christine's number. I never deleted her contact. The door stayed open, but I stopped waiting on the porch. And maybe that's the truest kind of love, the kind that says, "I'll be here if you need me, but I won't disappear while I wait for you to decide if you do." The sun set over Nashville, painting the sky in shades of gold and rose. Anna refilled our glasses. And I thought 5 years ago I bought a lottery ticket hoping it would change my life. It did, just not the way I expected. And for the first time in 5 years, I felt something I hadn't felt since before the test, before the money, before everything fell apart. Whole. Not because Christine had forgiven me, but because I'd finally forgiven myself for needing the truth, for running the test, for loving my daughters unequally, one who stayed and one who left. The test wasn't fair, but it was honest. And sometimes honesty is the greatest gift you can give, even when it costs you everything, especially when it's true. Looking back at my story, I want to share something important with you. Don't do what I did. Don't test the people you love. But do pay attention to who shows up when you truly need them. That's not manipulation. That's wisdom. God gave me a second chance at life when I won that lottery. But more importantly, He showed me the truth about love through my daughters. The Bible says, "By their fruits you shall know them." And I learned that lesson the hardest way possible. These family drama stories aren't just entertainment, they're mirrors. My Grandma Stories is one of thousands family drama stories out there, reminding us that wealth without love is poverty, and loyalty without conditions is priceless. Here's my advice: cherish the people who show up when you have nothing to offer. They are God's gifts to you. And if someone only appears when you're useful, that's not love. That's transaction. I don't regret the test. I regret that it was necessary. But God has a way of revealing truth even when it breaks our hearts. And sometimes that heartbreak is the path to freedom. If you're watching this and thinking about your own family drama stories, ask yourself who would show up for you. And more importantly, would you show up for them? These grandma stories teach us that age brings clarity. Money reveals character. And sometimes the greatest act of love is letting go. That's what makes grandma stories like mine so powerful. They carry lessons earned through pain. To those dealing with difficult family relationships, pray for wisdom. Trust God's timing, and remember you can love someone from a distance while protecting your peace. Thank you for listening to my story. May God bless your family with loyalty, honesty, and unconditional love. Final note: this story contains dramatized elements for educational purposes. Some details are fictionalized, but the lessons and messages are entirely meaningful. If this style isn't for you, that's okay. Please seek content that better suits your needs.